Hello everyone, Jill here. This one's specifically for the Peace of Mind group. I mean, they all kind of are. I don't know if I'll put this on YouTube or not. Maybe I will. But I wanted to address specifically people who are new either to this group and or to the understanding, the inside out understanding that we talk about here, that I talk about here, that all the videos are about, that my book is about, that my blog is about. I wanted to just tell you, if you're new to any of this, to that the first thing, rather than come in and just ask questions like, how do I do whatever, how do I stop doing this, how do whatever, rather than coming in with those typical questions that you might come into if you're in like a typical anxiety group or something on Facebook. You might come in and start complaining about your symptoms or whatever, and ask people if they, have these similar symptoms and what did they do about it. Like, that's not at all what we're about here. And in fact, I'm telling you not to do that here. That's like, if you come in and do that, chances are I will either, not let your posts come through because all the posts are moderated, and or delete it or whatever, or explain to you more about what we're about here. And that's really why I'm making this video, so that I can actually point people to it. I think I'll pin it up with the thread that I talk about this. So how are we different from other groups and what we talk about? How is what we talk about different? Let me go into that first. This is different because I'm not providing anyone with like a process that people can do so that they're less anxious. That's not what we're talking about here. It's not some kind of process or how to or anything like that. And that's why it's not helpful to like post your symptoms and ask, how do you get rid of them? Or how do you get rid of your friends' symptoms? How do you help them? Like, there's no process here. Here's what the difference between what I talk about here and what most other anxiety groups, if you want to even call this an anxiety group, the difference is that what we're talking about here is just an understanding of how life works, of how the human body works, of how our human design works, about how the universe works, really, as opposed to explaining, this is what anxiety is and this is how you can get rid of it. Like, and I know that sounds like weird if you're brand new to this. Like, you're going to be like, well, how does understanding how life works possibly have anything to do with peace of mind? Well, here's the reason why. Because the understanding of how life works is absolutely like bass backwards of how we've all been brought up to believe life works. So it's completely turned around, and that's the difference. Like, we have all learned, because it looks this way on the outside, that that people, situations, all that kind of stuff, that stuff outside of us can cause us to feel certain things, can cause us to maybe get anxious, let's say. So, like, say there's an impending storm, right? And, there was just that big hurricane on the east coast of the U.S., not here where I am, but further south. And so people believe that somehow this storm, or even the impending storm, can cause them to be anxious. And what I'm saying is that's not how the universe works. That's not how life works. It doesn't work that way. It can't. Stuff like a storm or thoughts about a storm, well, thoughts about it again, but the storm itself has no power to cause us to feel anxious. Anything outside of us doesn't. And that's what we're talking about here, and that's the difference. The difference is when we start to see that no person, place, or thing can cause us to feel any particular way, then we're free, because we're not like always waiting for the next thing to come around the corner that might jump out and scare us. Because that's why anyone who's experienced anxiety, most of the time, that's like the biggest fear. We don't know what's lurking around the corner. And so we're in this constant fear, this constant state of anxiety, because we don't know. And that's why getting an insight into how the world really works, that stuff outside of us can't cause us to feel any particular way, getting that at some level is freeing, because now we're no longer a victim anymore to our circumstances. And that is empowering. So if it's not stuff outside of us that can cause us to feel a certain way, what is it? And I'm sure most of you who've been in the group already know this, but for the new people, it's thought in the moment. There's a constant stream of thoughts that are coming to us in the moment, and that's what's creating our experience of life. And so if we start to, so there's an impending storm, let's say, and we get thoughts about it, and some of us will feel concerned about it. Some of us will get worried about it. Some of us may think, oh, that's exciting, a storm. I've never been in a storm before. There's, all kinds of thoughts that can come to us. And even for our very own selves, the thoughts can vary from moment to moment. We may be anxious one moment about the storm, and then later on we're just not, because it just doesn't happen to be on our mind. And so that's the difference between this and other stuff. The other difference is some of you have learned, you get that it's thought in the moment, but you think that so then the idea would be to change our thoughts, because that's been the psychological paradigm for a long time, cognitive behavioral therapy and other, and positive thinking and stuff like that. And this is different from that as well, because with this understanding, we kind of have learned over time that trying to change our thoughts just isn't sustainable. Like, we can change them. We can notice if we're having like anxious thoughts, and we catch it quick enough, we can notice it and maybe, let me just think of a happy dog or something, whatever it is we like to think about. And that can work temporarily, but the next thing we know, sometimes our mind is back on the thing we're scared of, just naturally, because it's a habit, because it's our condition, because whatever the reason, it doesn't really matter what the reason is. The idea, what I'm trying to share, is that we have we can't sustainably change our thoughts. They're just going to come, and they're going to be what they are. But then the other piece to this is that we don't have to change them. When we realize that it is thought, which is just energy flowing through us that comes and goes and changes all the time, all by itself. In one moment we have one thought, and in another moment we have another thought. Later on in the day we have different thoughts. When we see that it's not, that we don't have to change it, that it's nothing to be afraid of, it's thought, it's not stuff, then we're just naturally set free, because our thoughts are nothing to be scared of. And so for the new people here, that's just a quick summary, and all of the other videos here talk about that very thing in different ways for the most part. And also that the other key point to all this, I'll just quickly talk about, is that what we really are is that peace underneath all the thoughts. The thoughts come and they go, and they're movement, but we are what's underneath all that. There's a certain sense of peace underneath it that we all know about when we're doing the stuff we love, or with people that we love. You feel that kind of peace, and that's because our minds are quiet during those times, oftentimes. And so that feeling underneath, that's the true self and who we really are. and that's always there on offer. So that's the quick summary of what we talk about here. But what I want you to do if you come in this group is to look at the videos first. Like, read the pinned post, the pinned announcement, and start watching some of the videos and see if it, if you hear any, you don't have to understand it. Like, I don't expect people are going to be like, what the hell is this lady talking about? I don't, and that's fine. I don't expect you to understand it. But if you hear a little grain of truth, or it just sounds true or makes a little sense, keep listening to the other videos. Watch the ones from the beginning, that when Nicola had this group too, because listen to other people. You'll hear it in different ways. But do that first. Listen to a bunch of these videos, and then if you have questions about what you're hearing, then absolutely ask questions about it. That's great. I welcome that. But like, it doesn't make sense to just come in and ask questions that we've already answered a million times in the videos. And the other piece that I want you to consider doing, and this isn't to sell more books, but for $1.99 on Amazon, you can buy my book that it explains my whole story with anxiety, and it explains the inner peace, it explains thought creating feeling, it explains everything, and it's a quick read. You can get the paperback, you can get the Kindle version, there's an audio of it as well if you prefer to listen to audios. And that really, like every question you're going to have for me is pretty much answered between the videos I've made and the book. Oh, and my blog at whatdidyoudowithjill.com. There's about 100 blog posts there that also talk about this understanding. And so, like, there's so much information available to you. So I would love for you to start there. Start to get a feeling for this stuff. If you don't want to, that's fine. And if this stuff sounds ridiculous to you and you have no desire to hear more, and you'd rather talk about symptoms and things like that, then that's absolutely fine too, just not in our group, in this group. There's a million other groups where you can ask, how do I do this? How do I do that? And that's perfectly fine. I mean, for many people, that's really helpful to them. Sometimes people just want to know that they're not alone. And that's perfectly fine. It's just not what we do in this group. That's all. And so, those are some of the things. That was a quick rundown of what we talk about. There's plenty more. Go for it, if you want to explore more. And also, I'm also available to have chats with people. I like to do video chats like this, one-on-one with people for no charge at all. So if anyone's interested in that and you've gotten this far in the video, hit me up. And next week I could probably do some. I'm gonna be away on a retreat about this stuff the week after, but let me know if you're interested, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.